how much time do you remember spending with your father? Was he committed in continuing a relationship with you?
He just was gone, and I had to, we kind of had to watch my mother do it all by herself, It was a rough time because without his help, she had to do everything. So for a while we were homeless.
10 years old, I mean, this is pretty devastating for a 10-year-old young boy. And when you abandon your kids, I've heard all excuses. I left because I didn't think I had anything to offer my kids. I left because the wife was working or the wife wasn't working, all kinds of excuses. And I want to make sure our audience understands this. The reason that men abandon their children, and there's one reason only, himself. Hello and welcome to a very special broadcast of Your World. Now, my hope for this program is that everyone watching will come away from it with a new vision of truth and hope for their lives, no matter what kind of heartache you're facing. Your world can change for the better. Family is the foundation of society, and when the family breaks down, everything else does too. Now, today, you're about to witness the testimony of a man who has lived through the anguish of his father's abandonment of him. And like so many other young people today, he has suffered the pain of fatherlessness and believed the damage this caused him could never be repaired. Well, we're here today for a special two-part edition of Your World to talk through these issues and prove that through God's grace, even the pain caused by a parent's abandonment can be healed. We'll be right back.
Changing one life, time after time. Oh Lord, we do it all for you.
Through the trials I see, I'll always believe a new life starts with you.
Oh, change your world today. Change is gonna come your way. Change and get an understanding. His grace will transform you.
Devin Tyler is a bright young man, a talented football player who has spent the last 5 years playing for professional teams for both the NFL and the Canadian Football League. But when he was a young boy, his father abandoned him, causing havoc and disorder in Devin's formative years. And he is here today to share his journey towards recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Devin Tyler. Thank you for being here, man. I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to go into your world. This show is about looking at life from others' perspective. And, I appreciate being able to minister the Word of God and sharing scriptures, but it really comes to light when we go into the lives of other people and hear how they have come out and really search and to locate the grace of God that was present to help them to get out. So let's start from the beginning. Tell us about how your life started and how it started out for you.
I was born in Washington, D.C. I was actually a premature baby. I was 2 pounds. The doctor said I wasn't going to make it. So
You were born premature?
Yeah.
And look at you now.
I had to go home on all type of heart monitors and everything. When I would go to sleep, I would stop breathing. So for a while, that scared my family. Thought I wasn't going to make it, but I got through that. I don't really remember too much of that. That's when I was young. I remember when I was about 5, we had a bad house fire in D.C., and I lost my 10-month-old baby sister. After that, my mother, my father, my younger brother, my older sister, we all moved to Maryland, and that's when I could start really having most of my memories now, that I could remember everything we really went through. And it was a lot. My mother at the time, she was in an abusive relationship with my father. He was still around at the time.
Do you remember anything about that, the abuse that was going on at the time?
Yeah, I remember it well. I remember the screams, the loud noises and everything. And at first, the first time you see it, it scares you. And then after a while, you just kind of become numb to it. You know, oh, they just fighting again, it's nothing. You don't really understand what's going on. I was young. And I mean, now I can understand better, but I understand it was the addiction. My mother and father were up and down, you know. Sometimes they would be selling and they would be doing well, and sometimes they would be using and we'd be doing bad. So I kind of later understood what the abusiveness came from. So.
So your mother decided to leave your father around the age of 10, right?
Around 9 or 10, yeah.
9 or 10 years old. When that decision was made, how much time do you remember spending with your father? Was he committed in continuing a relationship with you?
He just was gone, you know, and I had to, we kind of had to watch my mother do it all by herself, you know. It was a rough time because without his help, you know, she had to do everything. So for a while we were homeless and we had to kind of stay with my uncle or stay with other people. We even, for a time, we stayed with someone else who was staying in the shelter. So
wow.
Until we were able to get our own shelter. And I think that's when things really started to change for us. You know, we had the manager of the shelter. He seen that my mother was using and everything she was going through and how bad it was getting. And he came to her one day and said, you know, if you don't clean this up, I'm gonna get your kids taken from you. The next day she left and went to treatment. 30-day treatment where we couldn't see her for that whole time, detox, you know. I'm sure you guys heard of it. So
yeah, you know, I found out that the number one reason for poverty in our country is fatherlessness. And I don't think a lot of men recognize that when you abandon your children, you also put them in a position where they will have to experience some level of poverty. You know, when death takes place, it kills the man, but it preserves fatherhood, because, you know, the man dies, but fatherhood, because you knew you had a father, at least you know that fatherhood ended at death. But abandonment, it preserves the person, the man, but it kills fatherhood. And when you abandon your kids, you know, I've heard all excuses. I left because I didn't think I had anything to offer my kids. I left because the wife was working or the wife wasn't working, all kinds of excuses. And I want to make sure our audience understands this. The reason that men abandon their children, and there's one reason only, himself. That's the reason, himself. It's not because of all the different excuses that we hear, but it's himself. And you came up in a very, you were exposed to the drug abuse. You're exposed to all the things that were going on within the family. You're exposed to a lot of anger and a lot of fear between your parents. You're exposed to poverty and homelessness. You're exposed to a basic human need, which is security, knowing that you have security, a home to come to, a place to stay. 10 years old, I mean, this is pretty devastating for a 10-year-old young boy. I want to move on to after the shelters and all of that. You mentioned to us that you moved in a particular neighborhood. What was the name of this neighborhood, and describe what it was like?
Oh man, it was actually in Maryland. It was called Suitland. That's the city. The actual neighborhood is called Home Avenue. And so at the time, you didn't really think it was like a gang, but because we would represent our neighborhoods instead of saying, hey, I'm from this gang or that gang. Being young, I didn't really think it was rough because I was having fun at the time. So I'm learning, and now I think I was about 12 at the time, and this is the time when you learn how to be a man. So moving around that neighborhood, off back, I seen that I gotta fight. I'm gonna have to fight, or they're gonna take what I got, or they're gonna bully me, and that's not how it's gonna be. I'm not gonna be a target, and my brother's not gonna be a target, my sister's not gonna be a target. So, I mean,
you feel like I gotta do what I gotta do.
Yeah, and so it was a lot of fights until I started to kind of get a name for myself, and people wouldn't bother me. And I mean, I don't want to sound like I was innocent, you know. I mean, I started to run with the guys and hang with the guys and do whatever they did, you know, and that's just how it was for a
Do you
while.
think you were searching for acceptance because your father just wasn't around and you're trying to figure out why he wasn't around?
Well, I would say I didn't really miss him at the time. Because my mother did so much to overcompensate for him not being there. Even through her addiction or her putting herself back through school or the shelter, she made us feel loved. You know what I'm saying? I was always felt loved by my mother. We always had food to eat. So I never really missed him until I got older. And my mother did everything as far as like teaching me morals and values, but it's just some stuff she couldn't teach me. And so I learned that from the guys in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like how you treat women, how I interact with other men.
Yeah.
The stuff that my mother couldn't teach me. I'm looking at the older dudes that's selling drugs and thinking, okay, this is how you be cool.
Yeah.
This is how a man is cool. This is how you do what you got to do. And I didn't realize that I was missing my father until, I got older and it started to make sense, you know.
Well, describe to us how the relationship was between you and your mother. Because I know she was just like your rock, man.
Yeah. She was my everything, you know what I mean? People that know me automatically know my mother, you know what I mean? You can't know me without knowing my mother and loving my mother because she was involved with everything I did. Like, she didn't miss a beat. I don't care what she was going through. She was right there, whether all the trouble I got in, being locked up or getting arrested or fighting or even, I thought I had a baby in high school that wasn't mine. Like, she was right there taking care of the baby, everything. She never missed a beat. So, I mean, she was everything. She just made me, I feel like that's what I had that everybody else didn't have. That's the advantage I had over some of my friends that's locked up right now and that's doing 60 years or 20 years or my advantage over everybody. I wasn't better or smarter than those guys. I just had somebody who told me there's more. There's more for you. Like, I could get in a fight in school and come home, and if I explained it to her that I didn't start that fight, I would be okay. But I couldn't come home with a C. If I came home with a C, the first thing she's gonna look past the A, past the B, and are you average? That's the first thing she's gonna say to me. Are you average? No. Okay, don't bring C's in this house. And so, I mean, she just showed me from an early age that there's more than where we was at. There's more, and she made me think I could do anything. Sometimes I would think she was crazy. Like, she would say, Donna, you could do that. Like, or even recently, like years where she would be watching football. Devin, you should be out there. He's not good. You should be playing for the Redskins. Like,
so she sowed the seed, huh?
she just believed that I sometimes would think she was building me up too much, but I see now that, you know, she just was trying to show me that there's more. Anything I'm doing now, I could do more. I could be anything I want to do, you know what I mean? It's nothing too far or nothing too, no level that's too high. I could get there, and that's what she believed, so she was trying to instill that in me.
It's difficult to raise a man, period, but to raise a good man, that's even something else. And I see single mothers all over this country, and those single mothers are doing the best that they can to say to their kids, you can do this, you can do that. A man doesn't do this. A man takes care of his wife. A man takes care of his kids. And I'm sure she echoed a lot of that stuff and did as much as she could possibly do in that area. And it sounds like she did a phenomenal job of really getting you to the place of understanding that I can do anything I make up my mind to do.
Exactly.
And to have somebody that would love you that way.
She was at all the games screaming in the crowd, her and my brother, and next thing you know, school started calling. And it was like, I mean, you say it when you're younger, when you're outside playing football in the grass and out back, but you don't really think, I'm going to get a scholarship. I'm really going to go get a full scholarship. And so when it happened, I still didn't believe it. It was crazy. Like, my mother was sitting beside me crying and tears. Like, that's probably one of the best feelings I ever had. To see, after all the trouble I had been in, to see how happy she was, like crying, because she was just so, and the guy who was giving me the scholarship was like, you got a full scholarship, right? And he's like, do you know what that means? And so my mother's already starting to tell. I was like, no, tell me what that means. And so he's going through free housing, free books, free everything too, and she just breaking down. So it was crazy. It was a big deal, man.
So you're getting ready to go to college and something unfortunate happens. Tell us about it.
Up until recently, I still had a problem with putting myself in bad situations. Like I said, I'm not innocent and still doing what I used to do. And I was driving in D.C. The crazy thing is, me and my boy, we were shopping and we got in a fight with some guys. I told him, we shouldn't fight. We have a gun with us. Sure enough, we get pulled over. Now I'm in my car, but my friend is driving with no license, so the officers automatically pull us out of the car. They search, the gun is under my seat, and I ended up getting arrested. And at the time, this is when I thought I had a daughter. I got a full scholarship on the line. So
let me ask you a question. Do you think your decisions would have been a whole lot better with the presence of a father?
I would have learned the things that, I thought it was cool to have a gun because I know that at any given time I might need it, and so that's what the older guys I'm looking up to are doing. So, and you don't think about it. I mean, wrong from right, of course, but that's in the community I'm living in, that's okay. And so that's what I was doing. But maybe if I would have had a father, maybe he would have shown me that that's not cool, or maybe I would have learned how to be cool from him, and that would have been me carrying myself a different way or not having to do that. So
yeah, because what happens is it's one thing to learn how to be a man. It's another thing to learn how to be a good man and learn how to make those good decisions, because fatherlessness, when you talk about death is like a personal tragedy. But abandonment, that's a cultural tragedy. It's something that affects the decisions we make, a decision to says, well, I'm gonna be this kind of man. From what I've seen in society, this kind of man carries a gun. This kind of man says it's cool to use. This kind of man says it's daring and it really shows your manhood if you can go and rob something. And there's not the man there to say, no, son, that's a bad decision. And that's what I want our audience to see. What Devin is saying is, look, I learned how to be a man, but I needed somebody that helped me learn how to be a good man. And thank God for your mom, because your mom, those things that you had in you, obviously it came from her.
After she got herself clean, she became an addictions counselor.
Wow.
And started helping people.
Wow.
And so all of her friends, even my father, she went back and got them. Like, come on, get clean. So
she went back and got your father too?
Yeah, influenced him to get clean,
wow,
everybody.
Man. That's pretty powerful. Yeah.
After helping everybody, get clean, my father, of course, he had got clean for a while and he was doing better, so he started to call. And even throughout all that, I was never mad at him because I never thought that was the man that he really was. I always thought it was the addiction controlling him.
Wow.
Now, maybe he wasn't as strong as my mother to beat it, and I don't hold that against him. I mean, I wish it could have been different.
Yeah.
Going through college, it was a different experience because I tried to carry myself in college like I did in the hood, in my neighborhood. And so when I first got there, I got in a lot of fights. I had to realize that everybody doesn't carry themselves by this code that I carry myself by.
The code.
Okay, he may say something, and that doesn't mean he wants to fight me. He may say something on the field, call me a name. My first mentality is, okay, he doesn't like me, we're gonna fight. And I had to learn that everything doesn't have to be an altercation. Some stuff you have to let it go.
Wow. Devin, what you're saying is so powerful, because there's this thing I call the man code. And the man code, in my opinion, is the number one reason that a lot of men go into this abandonment thing. Let me explain to you what I'm saying. In the man code, there's certain things, man law. Things like, when you go in the bathroom, man law says you don't use the urinal next to the other guy, you skip a urinal. Or when you go to a movie, man law says you don't sit right next to another man, you skip a seat. And the problem with man law is that as soon as a man realizes that he can't successfully keep it, he abandons everybody because he's not successful in keeping the man law. And what you're talking about is a form of man law that you learned in the streets. And you had to say to yourself, no, this doesn't apply here. And I've got to retrain myself that if I live by this man law, it's gonna do a couple of things. Number one, it's gonna get me in a lot of trouble. Or number two, I'm gonna end up so frustrated that I can't keep it, that I'll end up just leaving everybody because of the fear of not being able to keep it or the embarrassment of not being able to keep it. And I never had that thought before. And I thought, what is this man law? That men are not supposed to cry and shed tears. Well, if you don't shed tears, then when you grow up, you end up shedding bullets because you don't have a way to deal with your emotions. Men are not supposed to be emotional. I remember this specifically on Valentine's Day. My father used to buy my sisters and mothers candy, and it was a big day for them. Well, I like candy too. and well, you know, men don't do that. I know men don't do that, but I like candy. I'm a kid, you know, bring me some candy. But we were all in bondage to this man law, and only God knows what it has done to society. You know, it's Father's Day today, and we're celebrating Father's Day, and for a lot of people, that wasn't a good day. How was Father's Day to you growing up when your father wasn't there? How did you handle Father's Day?
Oh, it was like a second Mother's Day. You know, we would just
spend time with your mom.
Yeah, I mean, she was both. That's how we were raised.
See, that's a very creative way to do that, because I'm sure that helps our viewers, because some of you who don't have a father, and for a long time this has just been a miserable day, I would suggest that you celebrate your mother, or that you take the time to find a kid who's been abandoned and see what you can do to make their lives better. Or maybe even go to a father who maybe feels like he doesn't have anything to offer his kid, or he doesn't have any place to take him, and offer some advice or a way that you can help them so they won't make the decision to abandon their children. But, you know, what you're sharing right now, and man, I thank God for your mother. I mean, she did an excellent job raising you guys. She did what she could do. You are your mother's son. You are your mother's son. Amen. Devin, I've got a question, you know, and I've been trying to really help people on the show, but I got a personal question that I want to ask you. Are you looking forward to being a father?
Oh yeah, I love it already. I mean, like I said, it's some things that my mother, that she couldn't teach me, that I needed a man to teach me, but the things that she did, I think it's given me a great start, you know. I know that I'm supposed to love him unconditionally, you know, I protect him, and that I should always push him, not push him, but support him or make him feel like he could do whatever he wants to do. Mm-hmm. And so if I do those three things, I feel like that'll keep me good for right now.
You know, you got a situation where fatherlessness has created a culture. It's created a culture of drug abuse. It's created a culture of anger. It's created a culture of fear. It's created a culture of young men going to jail far too young. How do you plan on dealing with that culture, that even though you're there to be a father to your kids, how do you plan on dealing with that culture as far as your kids having to go into that culture and encountering a lot of the culture that was created by fatherlessness?
I mean, I think that's the easiest part, just being there. I mean, if I'm there and he sees what I'm doing.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer, man. It's the time that you spend with them, and that answer, I mean, that was a perfect answer. If you're there, they're not just hearing the voices of the people who are at school or out in the streets. They're hearing your voice, and your voice says to them, I'm not your enemy. I'm not really trying to be your friend. I'd like to if you'll accept me, but you need leadership. You need parenting, and I'm gonna be there no matter what. I'm never gonna leave you. I'm never gonna forsake you. I'm gonna be there with you, praise God. I think that's a powerful, powerful answer. Do you appreciate Devin and what he shared today? I mean, this is something.
An epidemic of fatherlessness is striking at the very heart of our homes, our churches, and our country. As you've seen on this special program, now more than ever is the time for men to discover who God has called them to be, to discover a real manhood that will restore peace, order, and blessing. Being a man after God's heart is not easy in today's world. With so many mixed messages and distorted images in our culture and media, it's more challenging than ever before to know what it takes to be a real man. But it's not too late for men to become the sons, fathers, and leaders God has destined them to be. Creflo Dollar wants to equip men with the wisdom, insights, and understanding you need to overcome lifelong hurts and to build strong, lasting, life-giving relationships. If you're a man who's ready to get more out of life, if you want to instill biblical masculinity and purpose into your son, if you're a woman who wants to really understand your son or husband, Creflo Dollar's Real Manhood will provide you with a clear and compelling vision of what it means to be a man of God in the 21st century. It's a wake-up call to all men to take up their callings, giftings, talents, and gifts, and to fulfill their unique responsibilities, to become a source of blessing and strength for the family, their church, and their community. In this dynamic read, Creflo Dollar addresses real-world issues like conquering fear, overcoming personal struggles, cultivating a dynamic relationship with God, and how to properly and effectively relate to others. These skills and truths will equip you or the men in your life to experience God's best while living life as a real man. This special gift offer is available today with your one-time love gift of only $35 or more. Your gift today makes it possible for Creflo Dollar Ministries to continue our global outreach to all across the world and to support life-changing moments like the one you saw today. When you order today, as an added bonus, you'll also receive the entire broadcast you saw today, plus the after-show Q&A session with Creflo Dollar and the live studio audience. Call now and receive both the book, Real Manhood, and your copy of today's broadcast with bonus content for your love gift of only $35 or more. Men of God are needed now more than ever before. Go to your phone and take that first step to discovering and embracing real manhood today. We thank the partners and friends of Creflo Dollar Ministries for making this program possible.